Call back later. Trinidad and Tobago.
NHL player.
No, not you. Here we go, folks. Ignore that one. Let's do this one. It is Tuesday. I'll tell you, my drive-in was shit. So I'll be on edge today. By the way, learn how to drive. Learn how to drive. Isn't that hard? By the way, if you're merging and there's only 2 lanes, and the right lane is the one that's getting screwed, so you got to get in. Just because you want to get in doesn't mean you just get in. I believe the rule and the letter of the law says that you wait for a space and or someone to let you in.
True.
You just don't get in because you want to. Yeah, do I let people in? I do. But when you skate down that right-hand lane and then try to jam in,
Let me ask you a question. When you let people in, are you looking for the wave?
always.
Yeah, me too.
100% looking for the wave.
And then if I don't get the wave, I'm pissed.
I fucking go crazy. Like today was brutal. I was just out of my mind today. I'm like, stay the lane, stay the lane. No! I'm screaming, stay the lane. Like I'm a coach on special teams. Stay the lane! Like it was just, I'm a little riled up. It's just one of those days. There's no rain. There's no snow. There's no locusts or crickets that I can see, so I don't know what the problem is. So people don't know how to drive. Road rage. It's underrated. Road rage. Just do it. Where's their rage today? Well, I don't know if there's rage in Pittsburgh. I'll tell you this, though. For a 4-1 game, and if you're just looking at, obviously what the final score was, how many 4-1 games are really that engaging? You know what? This game was pretty great.
That was a great game.
The best game, I think, of the series so far, and strangely enough, I think for the Pittsburgh Penguins, there were moments where they might have played some of their best hockey.
If you look at the breakdown of scoring opportunities for the Pittsburgh Penguins, there's at least 4 opportunities throughout the game, maybe an argument for a 5th, that the Penguins had a AAA grade A type scoring opportunity that Pekka Rinne stopped. What we're seeing now with Pekka Rinne in the 2 games in Nashville is what we saw with Pekka Rinne throughout the first three sets of series. He's back after a little bit of a hiccup in Pittsburgh in games 1 and 2. This is now turning into an instant classic as far as Stanley Cup finals are concerned.
If I'm a Pittsburgh fan, I'm a little nervous. Not necessarily that you're going to get rolled over like you did in Nashville, but for the, again, smoke and mirrors of the 2 Cobb going into Smashville, it was not accurate. Because period by period, okay, let's put it this way, and this is what people sometimes don't like, but it is sort of accurate in some ways. When you're talking about boxing, Dave, you're scoring it, who wins round per round.
Yep.
So if you're behind and you have lost on the score sheet with the boxing judges, the only chance that you have of winning the fight now is you got to knock me out because I'm way ahead on points and I've won way too many rounds. I got to knock the guy down. If that were a boxing match in the first 2 games in Pittsburgh, after the first, let's call them 2 rounds, who's ahead in the score sheet?
Yeah, no.
It may have been Nashville.
Yes, scoring-wise, yes, but overall, the knockdown side of it, 2-0 going to Nashville. Pittsburgh seemed to be in control, and all of a sudden, nope, new series, best 2 of 3. I thought you were going to go into your fight doctor impression. I got the Predators 10-9 in the 4th round. Yeah. I also got them 10-9 in the 5th. Right now, it's anybody's match.
I miss boxing so god. Even you just doing that, I'm like, Then what happened? Like, the Burt Sugars, God bless his soul. Who
But you know what?
passed away.
Those guys don't exist. The only guy that really exists from that old era, and he's not an old guy, but he's so fun to listen to, is Jim Lampley. Because Jim Lampley calls a boxing match the right way.
Oh, he calls a great fight.
And it's like, and once he's not gone for a while, folks, so don't get me wrong about that. But once he does move on and retire, I don't know if there's that torch to be passed, and if you have the right guy in there to call what could be future, main events. I know boxing right now is kind of a little bit of a dying breed, but by the way, speaking of that, rumors out of Las Vegas say August the 26th is the targeted day for McGregor versus whatchamacallit,
Mayweather,
the money team, Mayweather.
Yeah.
So that's not confirmed, but it's been tossed around because they kind of want to have it before the NFL season starts.
Good thinking.
And exactly. So from a marketing point of view, it makes a lot of sense. And in the lull of summer, there's a little bit of a dip there. So you put that before the Labor Day long weekend, which is celebrated on both sides of the border here. That could be a destination date. We'll talk more about that once we know.
You know what we should do? Once we find that date, we should be hosting the Raw Mike Richards fight night. Like, does that not make sense?
I think so. So you set up something like here or on the patio?
On the rooftop?
On the rooftop?
On the rooftop. Can you imagine the rooftop, the noise it will make?
We gotta get up to the rooftop soon, eh?
See, that's
I know this week is crap for weather as far as rain, but I mean,
that's a good idea though. See, there's some breaking news right there, but we'll think about that because we've got a couple of big announcements coming. I keep saying we've got big announcements coming, but we do actually have big announcements coming. It takes a while to get this big pig of a show off the ground, and it finally has. We're actually pretty happy with the response we're getting lately. In fact, Jason Blaine, big country star.
Yes.
He's from Pembroke, Ontario. The same hometown is Scott Sutherland, the Lazy Suds.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but
is Jason lazy as well?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay, that's good.
I don't think so.
So kind of opposite sides of the track.
Yeah, one works, one does not.
Okay.
So we're pretty excited about that. He's going to join us because he lives in Nashville. I thought, look, what we need is not only a country star.
Yep.
We need someone who lives in Nashville, also goes to the games, but has the Canadian perspective. He's perfect. So he's going to call us probably in about a half hour's time to give us his take on what's happening in Nashville. Because I got to tell you, if you're a Preds fan, like you're feeling a little bit. And you mentioned Pekka Rinne. So we've been trying to get stuff via the NHL, and they keep giving us the brutal copyright, whatever. So we keep trying. We're trying to do it the right way. So here's what. Let's go to Finland. Let's do it let's go all the way to Finland. And I'm sure it will courtesy the National Hockey League, as we always do. Property of the National Hockey League. But courtesy of Viastat in Finland, Dave.
It's my favorite station out there.
It truly is. When Pekka Rinne does that diving around, and and Doc Emmerich, if you're watching NBC, is calling it, sounds pretty exciting. But what would it sound like in Finnish?
Nyt kääntyy Pittsburgh nopea ja jälleen tulee Crosby läpi ja Joon Rinneköstä. Kiekko vielä pelissä! Ei mene! Pekka Rinne! Aivan älytön pysäytys Rinteeltä!
I think he's saying arriba, like in La Bamba. I don't know how that worked its way in there. Whatever you want to call it. Pekka Rinne, it's so weird. When you think he's making all these athletic moves, and you know that the Francois Allaire thing is about angles, Dave. It's about covering the net, about getting low. It's about all those things that the Patrick Roys of the world, Jay Giguère, that whole group of almost... like they worship at the altar of Francois Allaire to get that style of goaltending, which influenced almost a generation of goaltending on how they're going to play. The one thing I always felt about that style is, you're playing percentages. If you're a better athlete, can you make it work? This is the combination of both in a frame that's 6 foot
5, 6'6",
6'6", and he's doing stuff that Mike Palmateer or Doug Favell, if I'm going back into the archives, that's what they look like. That to me is an all-world goalie, and because of that, I got to think if you're a Preds fan, am I going? I think we can win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I like our chance.
Yeah.
If I'm a Preds fan, I'm sitting there. I love our chances. I think this is a brand new series. My only concern is they have to win a game in Pittsburgh now. So they have to win one of the next two if there is a second, because don't count this out. If they go to Pittsburgh and win, they'll win at home. Nashville will win at home in 6 games, kind of what we kind of anticipated at first. Maybe not this way, but we did say Preds in 6, so there still is that possibility. But I'm just kind of curious about where or when they will win this game in Pittsburgh.
Because you got to think, Dave, if you're Pittsburgh or a Pittsburgh fan, you lose Game 5, I don't think you believe you're going into to Nashville and winning.
No, you're not.
Now, I did get a phone call. Now, we've never done this one. Normally, I get like a call, but apparently there's a message for me on my phone, and I think it says it's from Montreal. So I'm going to try this to see if I can do this.
Okay.
It could be. Let's see. Okay, so this might be Al Montoya from Montreal. Let's have a listen. Here we go. I'll see.
Hey, Mike. This is Al Montoya calling, right?
Yes.
You watching this fucking game?
Yeah.
That piece of shit Murray is fucking... When you play goal, my coach,
Oh.
Frank, always
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's my phone again. Oh, live on air. Oh, my God. Well, that was, sorry, that was Al Montoya.
Wait a second. He called you during the game?
Yes.
Oh, you should have picked up.
Yeah. Well,
Mind you, you wouldn't have got that message.
that phone I have is such a piece of garbage. I can't believe the first time I go to do it on air and it caps.
Yeah, that happens. That happens, man.
By the way, people really reacting today. There's a...
He was pretty critical of the Penguins, eh? I know we only heard part of it, but man, I mean...
I think it got a lot worse,
Nice.
Dave. Looking at a tweet that went out here, am I saying that the Donald...
Yeah, Don Trump had something to say about about your show. I was kind of surprised.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. He thinks the show's going to be huge. So do we. Also, what was I going to mention? Oh, something I can't think about. I'm having so many technical issues and stuff right here. It's driving me nuts. I've got a bit of a parlay going, by the way. I know Jimmy the Bag would be real thrilled with this. But
Tell me more.
Last night, I took the Predators. The Predators, just to win, were a 1-7-1. So a 1-7-1 to me on a game that I'm pretty sure they're going to win. If you want to take it by the puck line, that is to win by 2, that takes balls. I mean, you think if Pekka Rinne even falters on a couple of those attempts, even should the Preds win, they're not probably winning by 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I took money line. Also last night, here's something weird. So Astros at the Kansas City Royals. Ian Kennedy's on the mound, and he's like 0-5, I think.
Yep.
The experts were going, well, but Houston and Ian Kennedy has a good record against the Houston Astros. Yeah, when? Apparently not this year. Because I got to be honest, that was also a 1-7-1 just a money line on the road. I'm going, right now, the Houston Astros, so we're going to skip a little bit quickly to baseball. How good is this team?
It's very good. I would be surprised if they're not at the least in the American League Championship Series. I think right now,
because they bitch slapped Texas in that series.
Ooh, did they ever?
And I thought, okay, if Texas is going to make a run, it's got to be against this team. That wasn't even close. It was like they were playing a T-ball team.
Completely. I look at this at the start of the season. I thought it was going to be Houston versus Cleveland in the American League Final. Cleveland's kind of let us down so far, but you know what? They're still in the mix. They're a 500 team. They've had some injury problems. Corey Kluber is now back, so he's arguably a top 3 starter in the American League. So we'll see what happens with the Cleveland Indians, but no surprises whatsoever with the Houston Astros. This is a very good team and a very young team as well. And the kind of team, Mike, that has the ownership that come the end of July during that first trade deadline, they will pick up arms. They will pick up another bat. They will spend. They're kind of at that stage is, here's our window. It is open for the next 3 to 4 years. Spend. I would be surprised if we don't see multiple appearances from the Houston Astros in the next couple of years.
Dave, one of the big complaints this year in sport is about how engaging regular seasons are.
Mm-hmm.
So in the NBA, it was real hit and miss, and the playoffs have been a disaster. In the NHL, you can argue that, and to me, it's the league that has the most parity. But some of the playoff series weren't great. I happen to think that the final they've got, they probably have it right. If I'm looking at Major League Baseball as a season, where are we weighing this in terms of engagement? And here are some of the storylines. The New York Yankees, who also have a young team that, for the most part, down the road, they're going to be very, very good.
Expect some Astros, Yankees type series.
And I'm not going to hate that. The Boston Red Sox got off to a horrific start, but they've turned it around. They're 2 games back. They're kind of a story. I mean, a lot of people watching David Price.
Yep.
I think at one point you thought John Farrell may or may not be the manager. I mean, in Boston, at least the headline was, is this guy going to keep his job, which, by the way, for him was a dream job. After that, I don't think necessarily the Blue Jays are a great story, even though they're a couple of games, under 500 after a terrible April. But I don't see them in Major League Baseball being a big story, nor do I Tampa Bay. If I look at the Central in the American League, Minnesota are probably a pretty surprising and a good story.
Nice story, yeah, especially that road record. Man, they're road warriors this year, 17-6 on the road.
If you're Cleveland and you're an Indians fan, you're pissed off.
You are, but you also have to look at it from some perspective. We're sitting here in early June. They're only 1 game back of the Minnesota Twins. This is very, very easy to achieve that kind of mark and jump over it. So, are we okay over there?
That's the fucking phone. What a piece of garbage. Now it won't shut up? Oh, my God. Never buy this phone. I would embarrass what this phone actually is, but it's this one. Piece of shit. Look at it. Talking back to me. Oh, by the way, it says country star Jason Blaine coming on. Okay.
Hey.
This we know. Thanks for that.
It's not so bad.
That's the... Jesus.
So I'm if we're talking about the Cleveland Indians being a first place team in July or August, no surprises whatsoever from me.
So Houston runs away with it. The Angels, not a conversation.
Actually, the American League West, not a conversation. The second place team, which happens to be the Angels right now, are already 14 games back.
It's not a
and we're sitting here on July the 6th.
Now, here's what's weird. The Chicago Cubs, if indeed they get into the sweepstakes, and I said yesterday they could use it. And someone's like, what are you talking about, Chicago Cubs? They're 29-27 this year.
Yeah.
They are tied with the Brewers, 2.5 up on the Cardinals. In fact,
the Brewers are going to go away soon. Don't worry about that.
The Central, you got St. Louis, Cincinnati, and the Pirates all within 2.5 to 3.5 games.
Yeah, it's a tight division.
But Chicago's, I mean, if I'm looking at World Series, and again, this is way too early.
Yep.
Can I possibly say that the Rockies have enough to hang on and actually be, a contender when we get to September?
Yes. And we're also looking at a Rockies team that's going to sit there and be very, very supportive in that stadium. That stadium right now, Mike, is all Rockies all the time, and it always has been that way as far as their offense is concerned. In any given night, the best play for the Rockies is playing the over on totals, just because of how many runs are manufactured there. I think they can contend at the end of things. They will get a wild card spot, in my opinion, because I think it's the Dodgers' division to lose.
Well, we do have some baseball highlights, and I think we'll start with. I think it was the bottom of the second in Oakland, and so Ryan Healy. So the Jays get out to an early 1-0 start. Didn't last that long.
That one is belted. Left center field and deep, and that baby's gone. 3-1 A's.
Healy's been having great at bats. This is a changeup. Down, and Healy goes down and gets this one. This is not a bad changeup. It's middle of the plate, but it's down.
Yeah, so there's that was the final last night, 5-3 for Oakland, who also are not of any kind of conversation.
Courtesy of NBC, Major League Baseball, and all participating parties. And by the way, that home run by Healy, hard to do in that ballpark, considering it's the largest ballpark in Major League Baseball, and he took him to center field.
Yeah, it's a long way out there.
It's a long way out there.
But it's a weird stadium in a lot of ways, Dave. I mean, when you think about also when football's played there.
Yes.
I mean, that is so old school when you think about, the days of like the Oakland Raiders.
Yep.
And Stabler out there, and as he's as he's running through, he goes from the grass
Yep.
to the dirt.
Yep.
Dirt as a. I mean, but that's how it was because in the day, generally, you were sharing. Everyone shared the same stadium.
Everybody did. Yep.
Cincinnati, you'd see it.
Completely.
I mean, aside from a New York, for instance, where they, well, for a period of time they didn't.
At
But
a
I
period
think-
of time, they did, though,
But
too.
Shea would have been the Jets would have.
The Jets
did.
played out of Shea Stadium
Yes.
for a while,
But,
yes.
but the Giants, I don't think ever did.
No,
I don't think so. I don't think they ever. Yankee
the
Stadium was
you know,
Yankee Stadium.
You know what? The Giants played out of Yankee Stadium.
They did.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Okay, that's going way back then.
And they still actually have the occasional NCAA
Yeah,
bowl
they
game
do.
at the Yankee Stadium, too.
The Pinstripe Bowl.
That's right.
Which
That's
is
right.
always shit.
Yeah, well, it's
like
two teams that Russell played for.
Here come the University of Syracuse with a record of 3-11.
I don't know.
Yeah,
If,
I'm like,
I don't know if a team that good played in the Pinstripe Bowl.
Oh, I've seen Syracuse. Poor Syracuse. God, the Orange used to be so good.
Yeah, they think basketball first now, right?
Well, and
sometimes that's a debate too.
probably should. Also, if we're taking a look at some storyline lines here this morning, if you're in the Colin Kaepernick camp,
yes.
so whether you're Kaepernick himself or, his representation, you had a guy like Coach Carroll, Pete Carroll, saying, this guy's good enough to be a starter. So if that's the case, you're getting him for basically, it's not, you know what, I wouldn't even say second string money. You might even be talking about on the depth chart a third guy. You might be talking about third string quarterback. So the money is not much of a risk for you. And guess what? At the end of the day, Seattle did not pull the plug. They went to Austin. They went to Austin Davis. Austin Davis, who was originally out of Southern Miss.
Yep.
People maybe not familiar with that. And he goes to what? He went to the Rams. He
was at the Broncos. He was at the Browns.
The Browns. He hasn't played since he was a Brown. So the picture you're looking at right now is the last time he touched the ball. I think that was 2015 is the last time he actually started behind center. And then he was with the Broncos, I believe, last year, but he didn't see any field.
No.
You took him
over
Colin Kaepernick.
That's telling you something right there.
Because now where does he go? Because I got to be honest, that probably of all the fits that they would have had for him, because the other guy in Boykin, the other guy that they have in the Seattle camp, just got arrested for weed blowing, I think, and maybe a DUI or I don't know. It was a break and enter. There was a lot of bad things for them, and so they went with Austin Davis.
So what's the background? Why did that happen?
I have to think that the consideration by ownership, not coaching, said, I don't know. I think he might.
Yeah, we don't want this guy wearing our uniform.
I think we talk about free speech, but the fact is that freedom of speech in kneeling down at the national anthems, a choice that is offered in the country that promotes free speech. But guess what? It wasn't free.
No,
not when you look at it, because they're never going to.
It's costly as hell right now.
And Dave, they're never going to say that's the reason.
No, they won't.
But I think you had fans probably saying, "Don't hire this guy."
It's interesting that Carroll would come out, and I know Carroll's, obviously he cannot possibly be telling the truth if he thinks that Colin Kaepernick is a starter in this league, because give me the team he's a starter on and I'll poke holes in that argument. Is he a quarterback in this league? Yeah, I think so, because every single team carries 3 quarterbacks. The third quarterback is usually the junior or the draft pick or something of that nature. Backup quality. I don't see why this wasn't a fit here, but he kind of put this on himself, and when he made these decisions earlier last year, that was on him. So he has himself to think about it, and will he be part of an NFL team right now, considering it's June? I'm starting to hesitate on whether or not I'll call him an NFL quarterback come September.
Well, he's going to find himself in a real rough place, because I'll be honest, if that's the case, then teams that are willing to do it, and again, this was a good scenario because the quarterback that you're behind, if he does miss some games, there really wouldn't be a ton of controversy. They're not thinking that Colin Kaepernick is going to compete for number one. That conversation
it's solidified. It's there.
But there's an athleticism that's needed to run that offense, which is why it works out so well for Russell. But if Austin Davis goes in there and you're playing defense, let's say that does happen, I think even still for Colin Kaepernick, you're wondering, Is he going to take off with the ball and run with it? Like there are some athletic options as a defensive player that I'm aware of that Colin Kaepernick has in his resume. Austin Davis has none of that.
Nothing.
He's going to go in and try to manage something, and I don't know if all of a sudden the playbook goes a little more vanilla. But you can't tell me that they're the same options and the dangers you have are going to exist when Austin Davis goes in. So I think that is really kind of scary.
The drop-off of 1-2 in Seattle might be the biggest drop-off in football.
Yeah.
That's how bad Austin Davis is. And I guess the decision even to go in that direction makes no sense whatsoever. If it isn't Colin Kaepernick, then go find somebody better than Austin Davis, because Austin Davis should not be wearing a football helmet in North America.
No.
And Austin Davis couldn't start in the CFL.
See, that's the thing I think. Someone's going, what about the CFL?
No.
It doesn't just work that way. It truly doesn't. And I know guys, what are you talking about? There is a litany of players who they thought could come up here. And this has gone on forever. And I would say mostly when I start looking at the 70s, when the money wasn't as imbalanced. Back probably in the early 70s, mid-70s, even though there would be more money in the NFL, it's not like how it is now. And I think of, I believe it was Jim Corrigal back in those days. And there was a couple of players where they considered one or two of the leagues. I mean, you had a Terry Metcalf that came to the league at that time. And this is where at the start of certain quarterbacks who used the CFL to then propel themselves. Joe Theismann, also of that time playing for the Argos.
A little bit later on, Warren Moon.
Warren Moon comes into it.
Dieter Brock had a decent NFL career.
Jeff Garcia did it
Yes.
to a degree later on in his career. Doug Flutie did it. There are guys who transition to a certain point. I don't think it's really difficult to make that happen now. Now it's a little more difficult because you're talking about contracts of $10, $20 million, whatever it happens to be, and the most you can get as a marquee guy in the CFL. I mean, you might be talking $500,000 a year. It's somewhere in that range. So I don't know if you get that transfer of players. But that doesn't mean that an Austin Davis necessarily is going to come up here and start for whoever. And it wouldn't be the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this year, I don't think.
No. They have their quarterback actually solidified, which is great. What I'm looking up right now, because I'm frantically forgetting the name, is Vince Young. Vince Young, Saskatchewan Roughriders. I don't know if he's going to be the guy in Saskatchewan, and he was the guy down in NCAA with Texas for the longest time, had the opportunity in the NFL, and now he's trying to crack on to a Rough Riders team that no longer has Darian Durant at the quarterback position. I don't know if he makes the team either.
Yeah, that's sort of what you have happen at times with the league. Darren Durant is out with the Alouettes, and I guess they're saying that he was injured, but he's coming back. But I like Darren Durant certainly of its time. But there are certain quarterbacks that, if I'm looking at that, got Ricky Ray here in Toronto, and Ricky Ray's been on my show numerous times. I'm a huge fan of the guy, but at some point, I need that guy. I need that phenom. I need someone like Zach Collaros. Mm-hmm. Zach Collaros, which of course the Argos had. I mean, those are the kinds of things that, what is this? I'm telling you right now, I'm having a fun time with this, the computers and the phones. Now it's done something weird.
They're the best, eh?
Oh, speaking of the best. Our Prime Minister, who works so hard, oh my God, the things that he is solving, the problems that he is able. So it's Kelly and Ryan.
Ryan, yeah, Seacrest.
What network is this from?
What is that? Is it ABC?
It's ABC.
Yeah, let's say ABC.
Okay, we'll say it's ABC. I don't even know what this is from. But live with Kelly, I mean, my God.
Kelly and Ryan.
Yeah, and so they're in Niagara Falls on the Canadian side.
Sure.
So this is big news. Even though that show, I don't know. I think just the three of us farting in unison might actually be more entertaining. However, our Prime Minister, that is the Prime Minister of Canada, goes on, and they ask him about the future Prime Ministers. Prime Ministers.
Yep.
He says something that probably, upon further review, as they like to say, might want to rethink the statement. Here it is, I guess, courtesy of ABC and the folks at, I was going to say Regis and whatever. Actually, they had someone with talent on the show. Here's Kelly and Ryan.
If you had to predict, let's just say, if you had to predict and say one of my 3 kids will be prime minister, which one would you put your money on?
This is going to get you in trouble. No way to win that one.
I will say, I have one daughter, and there is something very special about imagining a woman prime minister. I think it's long overdue. I just don't think we have to wait that long. I think it should be sooner than that.
Kelly was talking
Excuse
about
me. Hold on. Wait a minute. We had one. Remember Campbell?
Yeah.
She was a she. So there has been.
It was only there, what, 3 months, 4 months? How long was Kim Campbell in power? That was the transition.
It was a very short, granted, it was a short period of time.
It's almost like the ship started sinking on the Progressive Conservative Party, and Kim Campbell went out there with a lifeboat and hopped on and thought, hey.
That was inside stuff. Sometimes you have to read political ads, and so I was doing some stuff, and I might have even done one, but it was on the Kim Campbell side. But I knew a guy who actually had to do it because it was against Chrétien.
Yep.
And that's when they made a slight, and this was, again, the political campaign, the ad said, can you trust a guy who speaks out of the side of his mouth?
Oh, boy.
Because of the way that he was talk.
Oh, boy.
But that was due to a physical ailment that he had.
So mean.
Could you deal with or trust a guy who speaks out of the side of his mouth? Oh, that makes you cringe. There's some Canadian political history for you.
Imagine that ad today.
Oh,
considering how.
But even back then, Dave, it was not good.
Sure, it wasn't.
But now they burn it down.
Now, yeah, well, exactly. I mean, back then it's not good. Today it's 20 times worse just because of
sensitivities.
Just because of the sensitivities and basically the
campaign's over.
Yeah, the magnetic look of it and how big something like that turns into once it gets rolling.
I agree. Speaking of things Canadian, so Jason Blaine, huge talent, lives down in Nashville, but he's originally from Pembroke. And so we want his take on someone who lives in Nashville, but obviously has the Canadian background, can talk hockey. So our insider today, our hockey insider is Jason Blaine. But first, this was a huge song, Dance With My Daughter. So if you're a country music fan, go ahead, hit it. Jason Blaine will join us next and give us an update on what it's like in Smashville, as it is now tied 2 games apiece, and he joins us next.
Mama's looks, Mama's eyes, her old man's fight inside, stubborn heart, gypsy soul. Tell me, where does the time go? Gonna dance with my daughter, spin her around under the lights, 'cause I'm just a father making the most of
Jason Blaine and Dance With My Daughter. It's a beautiful song and a great job again by Jason as he joins us here this morning. Jason Blaine, thanks so much for joining us on rawmike.richards.com.
Hey, man. Good morning. How are you?
Well, I got to tell you, you realize you're our hockey insider here this morning. So, I mean, look, not that you're not used to pressure. I mean, you were in Nashville. So, and I also happen to think, as much as we're going to get to some of that Nashville talk, I think I'm also talking to a Sens fan. Am I not?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, they're my 2 hometown teams, right? I grew up in Pembroke, Ontario, just maybe an hour and a bit from where the Sens are, and I was a kid when they sort of became a team, and and then we moved to Nashville in 2006, and we've really seen, quarter-filled arenas at Bridgestone, not even, empty seats, and then we've seen that grow over the past 10 years. So we've been going to games, Preds games for 10 years down here, but you've seen it grow so much.
So, Jason, do you think it's unfair? As you know, north of the border, where we're sitting there, we're looking at a non-traditional, that's the word that always comes up with Canadians, and that we see then it's more or less almost like a failure. And I said, over the years, if you've been down there and as you've seen some of these successes, although nothing like this, I think it's unfair to say that it's not a good hockey market.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I think it's only growing and growing and growing. It was so crazy to see everybody out at Bridgestone last night. Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. You know, and you think about just how that impacted the game. You know, when Gretzky left Edmonton and hockey just sort of caught fire and spread to the west and the south. And you know, it's really, really exciting for Nashville right now. This is obviously as far as they've ever made it, and to tie the series at 2 last night has given everybody hope.
Yeah, it certainly has, Jason, and thanks for joining us this morning. I have to ask you this. When did momentum start with this crusade of fans, partying in the streets and so forth? Because as you know, and you've been in Nashville for a while, this team has consistently been a playoff team, but it's consistently failed in the first couple of rounds, and now, you get past the Blackhawks in the first round. It's convincing. It's a 4-game sweep. When did everything kind of seem a little bit different than what has happened in the past?
Man, I think it was the Anaheim series. I think it was the St. Louis series. Really, that's when you started seeing people out in the streets and everything. And certainly when they won the Western Conference, that was like from that moment on, every game since has been packed in the streets.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and the visuals that we're seeing on Hockey Night in Canada, it just frankly amazing. You as a performer, can you compare what you've seen in your town that you're living in, your city that you're living in, to anything that you've been a part of musically?
No, I don't know. I don't know that I could. I mean, the excitement of a big country music fest like Boots and Hearts Music Fest would be the closest. You know, I've played that a couple of years. I played it last year to a crowd of 20,000 people, and it was just incredible. You got all the great artists that come out. Last year was Tim McGraw was there, and they still play every single goal in Nashville. They play the Tim McGraw, I like it, I love it, I want some more of it song. They've been doing that for a decade. I imagine McGraw is so over it.
I would think so. Yeah. I didn't. He came on our show a couple of years ago. I didn't even recognize him. I mean, you talk about the transformation. Jason's unbelievable physically. What he has done.
He's incredible. I mean, the guy is like 50 years old and in better shape than all of us. It's really remarkable. But I got to tell you, I was a little bit brokenhearted, though. I mean, to see Ottawa, take the Stanley Cup champs from last year all the way to Game 7, double overtime, and it come down to one goal, one lucky shot where Anderson was screened on. It was like, that was as close as I've seen my Sens make it, and I was going to be in a bit of a pickle, if it was Nashville and Ottawa. But my plan was I have 2 American babies and I have 2 Canadian-born babies. I was going to sort of paint them up half and half,
That's actually what I was just going to ask you. So you already had the plan just in case the Sens won that Game 7. You know what? You're well organized, Jason.
Yeah. But I got to ask you, what do you guys think? What's your prediction now that the series is tied? Do they go back to Pittsburgh? Can they do one in Pittsburgh?
Well, I don't think that's a stretch at all. That's what Dave and I were talking about today, is that, when you have an all-world goalie, then that changes everything. And that's why, you mentioned Anderson. There's nothing else Anderson could have done in that series to keep those guys in it. But now on a Nashville side that kind of goes under the radar a little bit, even as they were sifting through those playoffs, the one constant was Pekka Rinne, and now you have that guy that you got kind of 2 by him in the first 2 games in the series. I think that's over. So I think the real pressure right now is on Pittsburgh, because if they're not careful and that game turns the other way in Pittsburgh, I don't think the Penguins got a chance in hell of winning in Nashville.
I like the way you're thinking. I like this. This is cool. I've got a really good songwriter buddy of mine. He's a Pittsburgh boy. We co-wrote my new radio single together that I'll be debuting at the CMAO Awards in London here on the 11th. And he's a Pittsburgh boy, so he's sweating it now that the series is tied.
Now, you talk about things that are coming up for you. Talk about the golf tournament that you have in Pembroke, where you get a chance to go home, you get a chance to see, probably some of the rabble that you would hang around with. And you know what? I'm sure it's a lot of fun. And our good friend Doug Gilmour, I know he's going to be at the event.
Yeah, this is really, really cool, man. This is our 4th annual event. I started this a few years ago, just wanting to give back to a hometown that's been so supportive of me. They've been incredible, especially since we moved to Nashville in 06, and then Facebook sort of became a thing shortly after. So, you're able to read all the comments from everybody cheering you on back in your hometown and really keep in touch with everybody. And I'm actually a graduate of Algonquin College. Way back in the day. So they started building a new waterfront campus. The community college in Pembroke was so old and outdated. And, with many of the old sort of blue chip companies since they pulled the railroad out, it's like a country song, the town, all those old like mills and things like that have sort of gone away. And they're really looking to the college to turn out students that will breed small businesses and be entrepreneurs. And that's what's happening. That's what's taken root in the community, which is really exciting. So we sort of partnered with them and the Boys and Girls Club, a few other local charities to sort of bring this thing to life 4 years ago. And, man, it's just grown and grown. We've had acts like Gord Bamford, Tim Hicks, Chad Brownlee, Dallas Smith, Jason McCoy from the Roadhammers.
Oh, yeah.
This year I got Juno-nominated Aaron Pichette, Rivertown Saints, this new guy Dan Davidson, who I love, Western Swing Authority, and Doug Gilmore. I've wanted the whole time to have an NHL star to come out to our event. This year it's happening.
Yeah, that's very cool. It sounds like it's going to be a great time. Hey, you know what? You kind of triggered something when you were just answering that last question. Country songwriting and so forth. Now, I've covered a lot of different teams where once a team, and the great example is the Predators this year, goes on a nice big winning streak, and a possibility of a Stanley Cup is there, and there's always somebody that comes out and writes a song about what's been happening. Has anything like this crossed your mind on maybe writing a Stanley Cup song or something about this Predators run to get some extra airtime on the radio?
Man, that's a really great idea. Now that you mentioned it, I think I'll do that.
Because I know you have the talent to do it, Jason.
Yeah.
I've seen other people do that very for sure, and it's just one of those things that you think for a minute, that would be a cool idea, and then I've got to go to Little League baseball practice or something, and you just get on doing something else.
Amen.
But that's a good idea, though.
It's amazing, though, the Canadian talent that has found its way into country music. And I remember years ago when Paul Brandt first gets started, and I meet him, and he's like, well, hey, Buck. I said, look, Paul, the deep voice might work on the ladies, but you want to just back off a little bit, okay? I get it. You have a deep voice. But, the start of what we saw, and, of course, Shania and so on, but I just think that collectively all the talent, you just mentioned half of it's going to be at your golf tournament. People always wonder where that comes from. Now, if you're from Western Canada, it kind of lends itself a little bit. If you're in some of the prairie, provinces and just outside of the cities, I mean, it's a big part of your life. But if you're not, then how does someone get caught up into things like CMT and actually going in a talent competition? Where does that influence come for you?
Oh man, well, just quickly, when I was growing up, we had one radio station, and they really played everything. They were sort of just an everything station in Pembroke, Ontario at the time. They played George Strait, Kenny Rogers. You might hear Phil Collins or the Eagles.
Right.
It was just everything, And then we moved into the 90s, and then, like you said, with Shania Twain and Garth Brooks and that whole 1989, 1990 thing happened. That's where you saw, stations flip, right? And they became FM stations, hot new country stations, and you saw line dancing with Boots Scootin' Boogie and Brooks and Dunn and all that stuff. So it was around that time, even for an on in the South, we were listening to the same FM country stations. No difference. You're hearing, all of the, the heroes from the South and the States, but at that time you're seeing guys like Paul Brandt emerge, and this really vital Canadian country music scene just really emerged in the 90s with guys like Paul Brandt, Charlie Major, George Fox, Patricia Conroy, and then festivals started popping up to support that. And now you've got, you got Boots and Hearts, and of course there's Havelock. I've played a number of times, and they do a really great job of bringing in classic acts and new acts as well, and the country clubs and bars that just really came.
I've been to a lot of events.
For me, it was just I would open up.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I know we're having issues with the phone.
You've been to a lot of those country bars.
Oh yeah, well, and I'll say if you're at Boots and Hearts, I've never seen more alcohol drank in it, and some of those young girls. I mean, that product Palm Bay. Palm Bay has no more product left after Boots and Hearts. They drink it all.
It's very true, man. It's very true. And for me, I would always I'd be a kid in Pembroke reading the album credits of where stuff was recorded. And it was Nashville, Tennessee. It was all of my favorite stuff was recorded down here in Nashville. So I knew for a long time as a kid that I wanted to move to Nashville to record music, and then to come back up to Ontario, a decade later, and play shows like Boots and Hearts, where the girls are, consuming large amounts of Palm Bay. It's a full circle thing, man.
Well, and here's the other thing too. I had a chance to work in country music very briefly, but it was one of my favorite periods, and I got a chance to talk to a lot of people, including Trisha Yearwood. She was fantastic. But Vince Gill, the moment that he sang in front of my face. Now I've seen him a couple times, probably 2 or 3 times since. But I look at a guy who sings like that, and I don't know if I've met a lot of human beings who can actually do what he does. It truly is remarkable, and I do see him. I know he goes out to Preds games too.
Oh, man, you just mentioned my all-time hero right there in Vince Gill. And I promise you, when I was a kid in high school in Pembroke, I was the only guy driving around just blasting Vince Gill music. Don't Let Our Love Start Slipping Away and all this stuff. All of my other friends are playing like Tupac and Eminem and, Guns N' Roses and stuff. And I'm listening to Vince Gill, and then I get redeemed, so they're all kind of looking at me going like, what's with this guy listening to Vince Gill? I sort of get redeemed like a decade later when Vince Gill beats Kanye West for, Grammy Album of the Year, all genres, and everybody's going, who's this Vince Gill guy? I'm like, I was trying to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's the one who didn't sing Welcome to the Jungle. That wasn't him. Yeah, he's the one who's saying, if you ever have forever in mind. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, I love that I love that song. I love that his some of his deep cuts too.
Oh, well, he said one of the greatest lines I've heard at a concert, and it was one of the big hits, and I can't think because it was one of his oldest hits, too, and it's way upstairs. You know how high he can sing. And he says, well, I never would have sang so high if I knew I had to sing it for this many years in a row, because it's just so high to sing all that. I mean, it's a note that isn't falsetto. It's just how he is, man. It's just how he can sing.
It was probably I Still Believe in You.
It is.
I bet you it was that one.
That's what it was. So, okay, so look, you're a hockey insider today. So let me hear, what is going to happen, Jason Blaine?
I'm going to predict that they're going to be able to take it in Pittsburgh and come back to Nashville, and I think they're going to force Game 7 here. This is going to happen.
So you don't think it'll be wrapped up in 6? You don't think they can do it in 6? You don't think they win the next 2?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll be 6. It could be 7, but it could make it happen. I want 6. I want them to win it right here in Nashville. But I think it might go all the way to 7.
Hey, Jason, what a pleasure joining you. I know it's going to be amazing. I believe it was June 13th in Pembroke?
June 13th in Pembroke. Yeah, we got everybody coming out.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks so much for taking the time. Hopefully we get a chance to see you again. And, very often we talk about doing remotes. Well, I wouldn't mind doing a week in Nashville. I think that, as we can see on television, it's a lot of fun. I've been there a couple of times myself. And the fact that you had the time for us here this morning, I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks so much, Mike. It's great to have to be on your program. Well, love to talk to you guys again.
That is Jason Blaine joining us here on the rawmikeRichards.com. Boy, I appreciate it. What a super nice guy.
Good guy, man. Good guy. Support that tournament. That's going to be blockbuster.
Yeah, there's a lot of Canadian talent that's in country music. And when you think about, where country music comes from, well, you can't really pinpoint anymore. I talked about the prairies. I talk about, where we believe that country music comes from. Well, it comes from everywhere. It's sort of like talking about American hockey. It's like talking USA. There was a time where if I'm not talking about Minnesota, Michigan, upstate New York, parts of Massachusetts, maybe even New Hampshire, Dave, now it comes from everywhere. And the fact, again, blows my mind. Can you think in the day, if it was available, that we would actually be able to talk to or go to Arizona State, go to San Diego,
Play some hockey.
Boy,
No.
that would be.
Oh man,
that would be fantastic.
That'd be outstanding.
And there it goes. That's the magic of Skype. I didn't realize.
So earlier on, and even before the show when we were talking in our pre-show meeting.
Yes.
I'm just joking. We don't do that.
No, I was swearing probably either at my phone or the goddamn traffic.
So World Cup qualifiers. What do you got for us? Because I got everything in front of me, and there's some crazy matchups, as always, because this is the crazy of the crazy, because everybody's involved. And, yes, we're looking at you, Gibraltar, and teams like that. So what do you got? And what?
Okay, well, here's the tough thing about, betting on Germany, betting on some of these teams who are going to wipe out the other side.
What about the Solomon Islands and Papua New Guinea?
Oh, yeah, those losers. The problem is when you bet on them, is we're talking about offshore, if you're going for this time of qualification, is they won't give you a number that says at times. So you want an Asian money line that says like -6.5 or what. They won't give you that.
Nope.
You literally have to guess the score. They're not going to give you an over. It's worth no money. So you have to find games this weekend, and I believe starting on Thursday, depending on the part of the world that is qualifying. So if I'm looking at the Central America, you've got USA at home to Trinidad and Tobago.
So 2 countries.
So, which is tougher. I mean, what, Trinidad and Tobago?
It's about the size of Regina in population, but
well, which is why USA, I can get a -2.5.
Yeah.
So that's the Asian handicap, they call it, at a 2.025. So double your money.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken that. Also in that region, I've got Mexico. They're at home to Honduras. Now, Honduras can play, but Mexico they'll be playing at that crazy stadium in Mexico City, where they hold all the NFL games.
Yes.
It's going to hold like 100,000 people. And I've taken also an Asian handicap -1.5. I think they win by 2, which is beautiful. Then I look at Europe, and so I see Hungary.
Yes,
they are at Andorra, which I'm pretty sure, Russell, you might know this. Isn't that one of the planets in Star Wars? I was pretty sure.
You know what? Yeah, Russell would know that.
Andorra is.
Come on, roast beef.
Yeah, you know roast beef.
Oh, quit
Don't
shaking
pretend.
your head, roast beef.
Like you don't line up for those things wearing the helmets. No. I'm Princess Leia. No, you're not. No, you're not. So I took Hungary on the road. The best I could do was, they say -2, -2.5. So by 3 by Hungary over Andorra. They beat them 4 Cobb at home. I'm just saying that they will. It's a 1-0, but you get no money for that. And then my Slovenian friends.
Yes.
Slovenia hosting Malta. Now, as you know, a lot of times in these tournaments, when you get to the Maltas and Andorras, they're basically playing amateurs.
Yep.
So when I say that Russell's on the team, Russell really can be on the team.
He is, because Malta's, a national team. You probably have a whole bunch of Russells that are working their 9-to-5 job and then grabbing their bag with their cleats and heading off to the game.
Yeah, they're making cheese, or what are they making, clocks, or what are they
producing top-notch shows?
Yeah, Malta,
driving cabs.
So they make the little chocolate balls, I believe.
Is that what they do?
With the foam in the middle.
I didn't.
Isn't it the Maltesers? Isn't that what a Malteser is?
It might be.
I think they make the fucking chocolate. I don't know. I mean, Malta, the Maltese Falcon. Okay, I know that. Okay, but not great at soccer. So I've got -2.5 Asian handicap Slovenia, and then it would finish up on Sunday. And Jesus, Mary and Joseph, the Republic of Ireland
against
playing
Austria.
those bastards from Austria.
Yeah.
Those Nazi sympathizers. Actually, in the day, so was Ireland. They hated England so much that they actually didn't mind Adolf. Little people don't talk about that.
That's terrible.
They don't, but it's true.
That is so terrible.
It's true. But I love the boys, the Irish lads. Come on, you boys in green. That's why they call it Coy Big. It'll be Coy Big. And if they win, Dave. So I won 3 last night. And people go, well, how big's the parlay? The number of games I took, surprisingly, is 9.
Oh, boy.
Which I always do. 3 are gone.
That's good.
Now we're down to 6.
Yep.
6, very workable for me.
Sure it is.
The only thing I've included was Golden State and Cleveland.
Uh-oh.
I have Golden State -2.5.
Oh, okay.
-2.5. Yeah. It pays $183. On $3, it pays $1,000.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, $1,000. So you can't take that away from me. And of course, is it a huge parlay? Of course it is.
You should have added Germany to beat San Marino.
Yeah, but here's the one thing though.
You would have got a penny for the dollar.
Yeah, and I tried to look for other ways of doing it.
Isn't that terrible?
You literally have to bet. So if I'm looking at a score like that, sometimes what I do is I put it at the end of a big parlay, and I'm like, okay,
yeah, you juice it.
6-0.
Yeah, juice.
7-0.
Sure.
8-0. 9-0. Because it's going to be in there somewhere. I don't think they hit 10, but for 6 to 9.
Easy.
Yeah, but that's what happens. Then you're sitting out the back. You're playing with your little puppy. I got the TV on outside, and all of a sudden you hear, oh, and there's Steinschwager. What? 10-0. No, not the 10. That's the one you don't have.
You don't have that
and you're
one.
out. Like it's a little, and they won't give you a halftime Asian money line. So anyway, those are the picks I have. Not that anyone would know what I'm talking about.
Interesting, and I'm not calling this per se, but tempted by Sweden and France. France heavy favorites are paying about a 170. Sweden is paying a 530. It's in Sweden. I'm just saying
the Swedish team is not.
No, it's not there anymore.
No, don't do it.
I know France is probably a top 5 team in the world.
Yeah, you want to go France on that.
Sometimes you go hiccups and you go.
Yeah, so I'm just going to take in Europe, just quickly looking over some of them. You know, you get like a Belarus and Bulgaria. If I'm doing the type of bet on that, I'm looking at probably both to score. Bosnia at home, they got the Greeks.
Yes. Bosnia, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's in Bosnia, though, right?
Yeah, so it's like a 166. You try to get money on Belgium, you won't. They play Estonia. Faroe Islands and Switzerland, although Switzerland, I hate Switzerland.
You see any ties out there, by the way?
Let's take a look.
Ties are always fun in soccer.
You know what? You might get a tie in on the Saturday, Azerbaijan and Northern Ireland. That could be a tie.
Yep.
That could be a tie. The Slovaks will beat Lithuania. Boy, I'll tell you, looking for ties. Maybe Norway and the Czech Republic, although good money on the Czechs to win that thing.
My wife's disappointed that you're not betting Greece, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Guess what, Irene?
I'm getting texts right now.
There is one way you could sway me, Irene. And you know what I'm talking about. Your sister, Vicky.
You got a bad cough?
Vicky. Yeah, that would work for me. Until then,
Bosnia.
You're in Bosnia. The Bosnians are. Oh, speaking of things that are very romantic and sexy.
Okay.
I heard Russell Graham, who you saw yesterday. That was a great moment, by the way. That has been kind of.
You know what? And I looked at the video, and upon further review,
Can we get that back up again?
Is
that possible to? Let's find the something that was actually called Bad Baby, and you'll find out why. But Russell made a tremendous. Well, I'm saying a debut, but it was a wonderful moment in the show.
And yeah, a wonderful moment is the right way of saying it. Now this chair's kind of slanted, so when I was trying to pick him up, and I got him off the ground a little bit.
Yeah, you did.
I probably could have got him a little bit higher if I didn't want to collapse the chair. Yeah. But we got to be careful too. But I'm glad Russell was able to show off his brand new shirt.
Well, if you missed it yesterday, this was a tremendous. Actually, if you go to our archives or just go to rawmikeRichards.com, subscribe to the station. You don't see magic like this everywhere, and you saw it yesterday on the show.
What?
Okay, but look, you got to come on camera. Come on this one because Russell is also wearing Dick's wear. So if you are watching it, you're going to see. If you've never seen. The Amazing Russell is also known as
Roast Beef.
So just turn around. No, go right. You got to go in front. No, in front of the camera. No, in front of the camera. Oh my God, you're the technical director. Are you serious? Did you see? Okay, only
no.
his head.
Here. I'll go change it to the 2-shot. Yeah, or the solo me, and then we're back.
And then here he comes.
This
here comes
roast beef. So
now you've got to move over in front of. Sit on Dave's lap. That's there you go, baby. There we go. Can you see the shirt? That's Dick's wear. That is.
You're a heavy fella since last time.
There we go. Bad baby. Bad baby. Oh, that just got incredibly weird.
I've put on a few pounds.
That just that became like probably what they used to do to Hervé Villachez on the set of Fantasy Island.
He's a little bit taller than him, though.
Let me down. I don't like this. Come on, little boy. Up and down. Do a somersault. No, I don't like it. Say the plane. No, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that all of a sudden became Hervé Villachez. I'd like to thank Jason Blaine, who joined us. What a great and awesome guy
he was
for
great.
joining us.
We're going to have him back, too.
So let's ask this question.
Fire.
Is it over in 6?
Yes, I think it is.
I think it is, too.
I think it is. I think they go back to Pittsburgh, they steal that game, and then they have everything waiting for them in Nashville. Imagine the party in Nashville for Game 6. I know we're looking ahead, but I anticipate a massive, and what we just saw here in Nashville, a massive momentum change. There's 2 more games left in the Stanley Cup, and that is it. That's why Nashville will win both.
Bruno chimes in here this morning on Twitter. By the way, you can get a hold of
Bruno's a great guy, by the way.
By at Raw Mike Richards on Twitter or at David Bastel. Bruno says, did someone say Nashville road trip? I'm ready. Oh, my God. You know what? Because I've been there before. I didn't broadcast, but took contest winners. We can work that out. So a couple things we talked about this morning that are in our control and have been mentioned a bunch of times. If indeed that fight between McGregor and Mayweather is on August the 26th, which you said, Dave, is just it's tentative. We're not saying
it's exactly.
But that's a date that's been talked about. Then we'll do something here in Toronto. If you're in Toronto, ahead of time, that we might do like a rooftop thing, or maybe in the actual Pacific Junction. We could do that. We could do it at Betty's. Figure out some way to get all those screens in there and the people that want to come, because I think that would be a great night.
Yeah, it's last Saturday of summer, basically, before you turn the calendar on to September and the start of the NFL season. It would be a great way to end it and kind of welcome the brand new month of September, which is one of my favorite months.
Yeah. Also, here in Toronto, how's about you learn how to drive?
What?
Yeah. Terrible this morning.
Best friends? Yep. You want to go do karate in the garage? Yep. It's time!
Yeah, so what happens then? Because you got boxing, which is Michael Buffer, UFC, which is the other Buffer.
Yeah, Bruce does UFC, Michael does boxing. Yes.
Which guy do you get?
I think you buffer them both out. You have them. You have dueling buffers.
Let's get ready to rumble. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. That would be great.
Let's get ready to rumble!
By the way, thanks to Jason Blaine joining us here. Got word that our good friend Barry Davis is going to come in on Thursday.
Awesome.
And then we've got someone spectacularly big, possibly by the end of the week. Have yourself a great day and learn how to drive.